to the Futureprint Tech Fest. Our next session is a double header entitled The Art of Collaboration. We have joining us Rob Carston, who's the Regional EMEA Director for Phoseon Technology. He's being joined by Lee Metters, who is the Group Development Director of Domino. And Domino, a very famous leader, an OEM for inkjet, one of the early pioneers. Going to talk a little about the culture of collaboration and the work they do together in order to create the best technological solutions. And we have quite a nice Q&A at the end. So I hope you enjoy the next session, The Art of Collaboration.
Let me just do a brief introduction. Phoseon Technology, we've called this presentation The Art of Collaboration, Working Better Together. And it explains a lot about how we work as a company and how we work together with our key customers. So a little bit of an introduction on Phoseon. We're a 100% LED focused company. We have hundreds of patents. We've been doing this since 2002. We've shipped well over 100,000 light sources and incorporating millions of LEDs. We have complete supply chain control, and we're headquartered in Portland, Oregon, USA. We have worldwide coverage and support, ISO 9001, all the good things you'd expect of a world-leading company. Our goal really is, as a company, is to transform the industry from the sort of gas discharge, mercury discharge tubes to solid state curing. And we've been very effective at that in certain industries. And we've done that through our advanced capabilities, our generating good operating economics and the environmental advantages, which is a growing agenda nowadays in terms of sustainability. Indeed, we have customers now who have specific, they call energy managers, whose sole focus is looking at the energy budget within a complete process life cycle. And LEDs are making a valuable contribution towards that sustainability target. So our three main industries are print curing, inkjet, which we're very famous for in graphics and in packaging, industrial curing for coatings, printed electronics and adhesives, and life sciences, which is a newer division of our company, which is involved in things like chromatography, decontamination, disinfection, and sterilization. So we look at our Phoseon OEM business model. The thing we would say about our company is we're collaborative by nature, and we're also collaborative by design. So our company is structured to be collaborative at an OEM level. We're very much an OEM orientated company. And we find the most effective way of working in collaboration with companies is by developing a high trust quotient in the foundation. This is the foundation of effective collaboration. And to generate that trust, it needs to be in your DNA. You can't fake it. And so that's a really important part of what we believe in, is developing that trust between the OEM and the supplier. Because if you can't be open with each other, you can't collaborate effectively. So what does that really mean? So it means that for us as a company, our whole culture is OEM orientated. So we understand, we breathe, we live, we work with OEMs in terms of how we develop things. And doing that, we have a very in-depth understanding of the customer's requirements and their value proposition, what they're delivering to the market, and how we work with them to better deliver their solutions to the market. And what's really important with that is for them to have a deep understanding of our capabilities and what we can deliver. Because it's sometimes the ideas can come from us, but they can also come from the OEM. So it's that collaboration where we're feeding off each other, bouncing ideas off each other. So it's important that they have a good understanding of what we do. We need to have a good understanding of what they do and what they want to deliver into the market. So that's very important. And what we need to do as a company, we have to be willing to adapt. We have to be ready to respond, and we should always be learning. So we should be taking the opportunity to talk to all the cast of characters within a company, from the people like Lee, to the people who run the equipment, to the people who do the marketing, to the sales people in the field, to understand the about their business and how our technology impacts their business. So that's very important. So that's a constant learning process. And also we should be working with, in a true collaboration, we should be working on short-term goals, we should have medium-term goals, and we should also have long-term goals. So these are, I guess, how we would define what a collaboration looks like for us. And it's all built around trust. If we look at the benefits from collaboration, I mean, for us, we see that companies that deeply integrate with their suppliers grow faster and outperform their competitors because they get better solutions from their suppliers. Suppliers, I mean, for us, the benefit of working with a company like Domino is that we learn from the OEM, and that helps us develop better products and solutions. So there's very much a two-way process, and that dialogue helps us in terms of understanding how we develop our products, and it helps our customers, like Domino, in terms of the kind of products they get from us to deliver to the market, and they can be quite bespoke for their requirements. And the OEMs benefit from working with suppliers because we're the ones who are constantly investing in the technology, we're pushing it forward, we're looking at new solutions and new ways of enabling our technology to make it more efficient, more cost-effective, more powerful, whatever the requirement is. But it's unlikely as an OEM, and I'm sure Lee will agree with this, is that you have so many components in a system that you need to rely to some extent, and Inkjet's a very good example of that all the different suppliers within the chain, you can't do all that on your own. You can maybe do that for one machine, but if you're constantly trying to innovate and develop new systems and solutions, it becomes a very costly exercise to stay ahead and up to date with all those technologies. I'm going to keep it fairly short. In summary, what I would say is that, you know, the collaboration between world-class companies yield many benefits. So two world-class companies like Phoseon and Domino working together benefit both from internal and external communications and delivery of products and solutions, and so that's beneficial to both of us. And it helps both parties sustain their competitive advantage. So that's, again, you know, something we believe very strongly in. We also think that collaboration should happen at all levels. So we should be collaborating with Domino at looking at cost-reducing legacy products. We know what happens as technology ages, competitors catch up, things become commoditized, and then pricing becomes more of an issue than when you have technological lead at the beginning. So you need to work with people to cost reduce existing products. We need to work with people like Domino to develop new market leading solutions so they can deliver faster, wider, quicker, better printers. And we should also be working in the background with their scientists and their chemists, delivering light sources in maybe different wavelengths, different configurations, power levels, all different types of things that we play around with. We spend a lot of time talking to chemists. We spend a lot of time in R&D labs with people borrowing light sources off us and say, well, can you just get us one of these and get us one of those and two of these and three of that? And it's something that Phoseon encourage. We have a vast amount of demo systems that we loan out and one-off systems that we make for people in different wavelengths and strange configurations. And it's an important part of our learning process, but it's also very important in terms of developing future solutions. And the other thing I would say is always very important is to listen more and talk less. So I'm going to stop talking and we're going to listen to Lee. Let me stop the share.
Thank you very much, Rob. Not sure how I'm going to follow that, but let me take you through the presentation. We've had a very successful relationship with Phoseon over a number of years, but I'm going to start off talking a little bit about Domino, because although we're quite well known in the world of coding and marking and increasingly in digital printing, we're actually we have other arms to our business that are less well known. So you can see the kind of key numbers here. We're a global business. We provide products now in somewhere around 150 countries globally. And we are headquartered in Cambridge. We're one of the sort of Cambridge inkjet cluster. But we're more than just printing. We're also these days inspection, data management, and really importantly, support. Because we make our money by our customers using our products and having a successful experience. So it's so much more than just providing products. And that's why partnership is really key, because we sell a piece of equipment, but we get our returns by our customers having a successful experience and using the product over a long period of time. So actually spares provision and partnership and being able to continue to support old equipment is a really important part of our business. And that's why the relationship with suppliers is so key. So, we're known globally as a coding and marking supplier, date codes, barcodes, increasingly these days serialized codes and variable data. And those are used for traceability, authentication, and just now we're seeing an awful lot of projects in consumer engagement. This is where people are trying to use information on the product to join their business through to their customers. And that's particularly strong in Asia, where there's a tremendous amount of innovation happening. We're a digital printing business. We're very centered as a brand on packaging. So labels, corrugated, variable data bars going into existing flexo presses and other printing applications. And we also supply machines for things like continuous feed applications. But that's a much smaller part of our business and not a core brand. But the other side of the business that people are less aware of is we are a solution provider. So we provide complete systems and print engines to OEMs and our major customers. Often we do specific systems for people. And consequently, we understand partnership because we're a partner to our customers as well as a partner to our suppliers. It's joining all that stuff together. And quite often the conversation will start, I want to print this, I want to do that. And we'll then try and work out whether we've got something in the range or whether we have to do something special and how we can put something together. And that means our relationship with our partners is often very project-based. Yes, we have our printer projects, but we also have our application activity. And that can include things like inspection, inks, and as an ink supplier, we're actually quite a big ink company, and we develop and manufacture our own inks in UV, aqueous, these days pigment polymer inks, water-based, as well as all the solvent and sort of CIJ inks and ribbons and things that go into our coding and marking business. So if we tried to do all that ourselves, we wouldn't be 3,000 people, we'd be 30,000 people. And that's why partnerships are so important to us. Another key part, we are part of Brother Industries and have been for now just coming up for 6 years. So we're part of a larger business too. Why is inkjet about partnership? Well, a press contains lots of bits. Down the bottom there, you can see our K600i, which is a print bar. It's also a key component in lots of other systems that we build. And we can produce systems from sort of 108 millimeters up to 1.3 meters wide. And those systems are installed in lots of different types of manufacturing business. So the architecture is ours. We develop parts to make the system work and give a reliable, dependable system. For us, reliability and dependability is really important. We don't try and sell systems that work some of the time. We want to sell systems that work all of the time. We provide the key hardware and software components that build that architecture. We focus a lot on making the system as reliable as possible, and that means in this arena of digital printing, making sure the print quality is consistent, that the system's durable and it can be operated by the people that are using it, and that it works on the range of substrates that customers want to put through it. And of course, that range of substrate moves all the time. It's not a question of when you sell the press, you have to continue working with the customer to make sure that the materials that they want to use now are still going to work. So for us, it's a partnership with our customers, but it's also a partnership with our suppliers, because it may well be that we have to revisit things again later to make systems work better on some kind of new material. And with all the changes that are taking place at the moment with packaging materials and recyclability, the desire to reduce plastics, or at least reduce non-recyclable plastics, we're seeing a huge amount of activity in our customers about trying to manage new types of substrates. And of course, the key to building such a system is to work with the people that are best in class and can bring to us their expertise. And that also includes telling us when it's time to move on, or when it's time to move to, for example, a different spare. So Rob's already talked about support of legacy applications. And that's a really key thing that we look for in suppliers. So what does that mean for us in Phoseon? Well, I struggled to find photos of what we do with Phoseon because it's a component inside our system. So you can see here an installation at a customer. This one's one of our bespoke installations. And what you've got here is a Phoseon system sitting there at the end of our print bars. It's part of our system. It's an integral part of what we sell. And for us today, we're using Phoseon as a pinning lamp provider. And we've been using them since the early days. We did use other people in the very, very early days, but we had some issues and we've settled with Phoseon, and we've been using Phoseon now for, I think it must be 8 or 9 years, quite a long time. And consequently, of course, Phoseon benefit because as we're successful, they're successful. And we have the same relationships with our customers. You know, if we deliver a good result for our customers and they grow, they buy more stuff from us too. So, you know, it's all important to join the supply chain up and down. When we're talking about these print bar systems that are down the bottom here, the relationship's even more important because quite often those systems are bespoke for a particular customer, and we may need local support in order to be able to make such a system work. It's not an out-of-the-box system, it's something that's built to fit the particular press. And that's a really key part of what we look for in a relationship. It has to be available and supportable in the places where we want to sell it. The other really key thing about the partnership is relying on the partner to help you understand when it's time to move on. And by that, I mean, you know, technology moves on all the time. We understand our technology areas. We have to rely on our partners to tell us when it's time, first of all, to move on to a different version because they've improved the product, but also when they're able to hit key thresholds. So at the moment, we use mercury arc lights to do the final cure in our systems. And there's two reasons for that. One is that we work a lot in food, and therefore migration is a really key part of this story. And the applications are fast. So we're at the top end of what you can achieve. But we also know that the technology is moving on, and we now have a number of applications that are using LED curing as well as using it as a pinning system. And of course, the pinning system's key too, because that affects print quality on the substrates you're looking for. So we rely on our partners to tell us what's possible, what's cost effective, and when it's time to incorporate something new into the product. So, you know, thank you for your attention.
And so thanks for that, Lee and Rob. Really interesting. I've got a few questions if you can hang on for a couple more minutes. One of the things that's came through in the session that from both of you really was this sort of culture thing in terms of how you tend to work together. How important is culture for Domino and I suppose for Say, and start with Lee there.
I think for us it's really important. If you look at a press, it's a really complicated thing. There's lots of bits to it. We couldn't do everything ourselves. We absolutely have to have a culture of partnership. So one of our company values actually is about working with partners. But you've got to have the partner that fits. You've got to have the right organization, because in the end, we're both delivering a result to the customer.
Absolutely, yeah. Rob, is it a matching of cultures a positive thing with
Absolutely.
you?
I mean, that's what I said in our presentation. You know, that culture of collaboration is really in our DNA, and your company really needs to be almost built around it in that understanding. And you need a very different kind of focus in terms of how you respond, how you react, and how you work together with companies long term. And it really is part of our DNA when I say that. And it works at so many levels, because it not only helps the customer, our customer, but it also helps us develop as a company in terms of how we respond, the products we develop, the systems we put in place, test procedures, R&D, demo equipment, all that kind of stuff is really, it's all improved by working together with world-class companies like Domino.
And you get the best of class in the different areas and the different components. And this is a question for Lee initially. I mean, obviously, Domino develops technology. You're famous for being one of the early inkjet leaders and OEMs, whatever you want to call it. In your view, is ink probably the most important part of the whole mix, or is that wrong in your view?
Well, I'm going to sound slightly biased here. Domino is actually quite a big ink company. You know, we have a large ink development team. We have our own ink manufacturing facilities around the world, and I would say, you know, in the early days of inkjet, people talked about the three, you know, substrate, print head, and ink. I would say the three have to come together, but the thing that really makes the application is the ink. You've got, you know, it works on the material. It's the thing that gives the result. It's the thing in the end that the customer buys. But you need to make all those three things work together. And the ink has to work with, you know, if we're talking UV inks, it has to work with the curing technology. You know, it's all part of that. It's all part of that story. And in the end, it's the ink that the customer gets left with. So of course, I'd say ink's the most important. I know we make glazes as well, but that's a different story.
Yeah.
Right. And Robin, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, then, you know, that absolutely the ink is critical, and we always look at the, you know, the material side. I think our three-legged stool is a little bit different to Lee's, in that we think about the materials, we think about the machinery, the equipment, and we think about our drying solution. And it absolutely dictates very much in terms of what we deliver in terms of wavelength. I mean, we do other light sources than UV as well, so we do other wavelengths. And then we have to consider the dose and the intensity and the wavelength. You know, we have then certain requirements from customers who have preferences for air-cooled solutions as opposed to water-cooled solutions. And so we bring all that mix into it all in terms of space considerations, performance considerations, and then that's where we try and optimize the solution, you know, in terms of its performance and its price and reliability and all these things that we have to get right in order to make a reliable system.
Actually, if I can add something on to the end of that, Marcus, the other area of partnership that we have to work with, and this is one where it's interesting, inkjet has now suddenly become important enough for substrate manufacturers that they want to talk to us as well. So we, instead of just following what's going on in the substrate space, we're now starting to get companies come to us and ask us questions about how their proposed substrates will work with us. And one of the surprises to me when I got more involved in that side of the business is that actually substrates aren't necessarily the same everywhere. So the materials we find in the Americas are different from the ones we find in Europe, are different from the ones we find in Asia. So actually, you have to put quite a lot of effort into understanding what's available on the market and how you're going to deliver the result. So you know, I think this is an area which is going to get more complicated as we move into a world where, you know, our world's mostly packaging. Packaging's now trying to become recyclable, sustainable, and there's a lot of changes in substrates taking place as a result.
Yeah, they go going from laminates to monofilaments and all these type of things. Yeah.
So away from laminate to mono. So laminate being quite an effective solution, but actually it's got quite a lot of material in it that isn't particularly sustainable.
Well, it's more about recyclability. So laminates are an issue for recyclability, whereas monolayers are, you know, that's really the direction people want to go in, I think, in terms of recyclability.
Yeah,
It's going to be really interesting to see what happens, because at the moment the targets are there, but the solutions aren't there in terms of the substrates. So we're seeing a lot of change, and I think we're going to see a lot more change yet in terms of the materials that people want to produce, and because the packages in the end have to be able to go back into a recycling process.
And then that has an impact on what we do, because going from a laminate material to a more filmic material like that, it becomes much more heat sensitive. So, you know, again, how you choose the right drying technology for these types of processes is critical.
And it's a lot about minimizing use of energy and being efficient as possible, obviously being as fast as possible. And you've got LED, which is everyone seems to be talking about at the moment. Is that the future in your view?
Well, personally, I would say so, yes. But I would say that. But I think if I might just think about a number of conversations I've had recently with different companies where they're now starting to employ people at senior levels within major corporations and packaging companies and users and end users on sustainability, on energy management. And I see that a product like an LED light source can really tick the box and help out in terms of achieving sustainability targets. And we have to work very closely together with the materials companies to produce the right kind of curing systems, because Lee and all these people have to comply with things like low migration and all the other things that are important. So we need to make sure we can work with the materials companies. So it's like Lee, we're collaborating all over the place with raw materials, with ink formulators, with material substrates, trying to make solutions that work and are effective, because it's no good having one part of the process but not the other parts.
Yeah, and it's kind of difficult to do it on your own, isn't it? All of it.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's too complex, complicated. And obviously, as you said, Lee, in the session, that if you didn't collaborate, you'd probably have to employ 30,000 people instead of 3,000. So it's economically valuable as well as technologically valuable, isn't it?
I think the world these days is all about specialization, isn't it? It's about working in partnerships to put together something that satisfies the customer. So we do things specifically for customers as well. It's not just a generic product. We do work with people to develop things for particular materials or processes, and that collaboration has to also go up into our supply chain. So working closely with the people that provide us with components, and even working with universities to get components that we can't get. Because one of the things about inkjet is we think it's mature, but actually in some areas inkjet requires very specialist things, and there's a constant evolution of capability. And if we didn't have a supply chain, we'd be enormous.
And
not profitable. Which wouldn't be any good.
Yeah, and so lastly, and service came through quite a lot and it seems to come through as a key thing, right? You can't, well, maybe you can sell a product and leave it with the customer and not serve them, but actually it's more important than price, isn't it? Service.
Oh, that's an interesting one. Customers will always tell you that price is important, but price is important, but actually in the end, you don't lose customers because you get expensive. They come and talk to you about that, but you do lose customers if you don't support them and serve them well. The number one reason you lose customers, particularly in more mature markets, is because you haven't looked after them well enough. So service is absolutely key. And one of the difficulties with both of our industries is that actually this equipment's quite long-lived in comparison with, say, consumer life cycles and electronics. So when we sell something, we take on a responsibility to make sure that we can look after that equipment for what the customer regards as a good lifetime. It's no good saying, "Oh, that was last year's model. Sorry, we don't do spares for that."
No.
It just doesn't work. And that means that the conversations we have with people like Rob have to be on the basis of, we're going to be selling this system for 10 years. We're certainly going to be supporting it for 10 years. How can you make sure that we're going to have something that we can put in that place if it fails in the future? That's not to say we're expecting it to fail, but you need to be in that situation where if something goes wrong, you can look after the customer.
Yeah, that's really important. Our CEO is very fond of saying, price is what you pay, value is what you get. And the value in our systems are partially due to their longevity, their reliability, and the fact that there's very little intervention and maintenance required. And so that's really important, because the value in the Domino system is in its use. It's not much value to anyone standing there looking pretty. It has to work, and it needs to work reliably and continuously.
Brilliant.
In fact, most of the conversations we have with customers about the press are not about breakdowns. They're about print quality. And print quality is not just us. That's substrate, ink, and press. And quite often, when you get to the root of it, something's changed in the substrate. So, it is this question about partnerships all the way, and realizing that you're here to be a partner with your customer, to be a partner with your suppliers, and make sure that everyone's happy in the end.
Superb. So there we have it, the art of collaboration. So thanks both of you for joining us for this interesting discussion, and we hope to have you back again Lee at a future event, and obviously Rob as well, who's already been part of a few of them. So great to see you both. Great to have you. Take care. Wish you all the best. Thank you.
Yeah, and good luck with the rest of the conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much.